Parents of Reddit, what is your best? Why is my kid so stupid moment? Part 1. My 12-year-old daughter blamed a squirrel when we asked how the borax for her slime project moved from the garage to the kitchen counter. It is so fulfilling to go from, I'm pretty sure you're lying, to 100% no, you're lying. I've started telling my daughter that her ears wiggle when she lies. Hopefully she learns to cover her wiggling ears when she lies. My older brother carved my name onto the side of my mom's car with a rock for whatever reason and tried to blame it on me. I was like 4 years old and couldn't write yet. My mom told me about when she was a kid and one time she scratched her name into the dining room table. She did it absent-mindedly and freaked out when she realized what she did, and she scratched all her brother's names in it too. I'm amazed at how many times I've had to say, don't lick that. I don't have kids, but my nephews were visiting for Thanksgiving. The youngest was 2.5. We have pet chinchillas, and we showed him that if he offered the chinchillas an apple would stick, the chinchilla would take it from him and start gnawing on it. Well, obviously, this was great fun, so he started giving the chinchillas dozens of sticks, which I'm sure they loved him for. No harm, no foul, by the way. It's not like it's unhealthy for them, it was just getting excessive. At some point, his grandpa said, enough, and teasingly, for every stick you give them, you have to eat one too. Guess who took several nibbles of a stick before anyone could stop him? My daughter insists wearing a jacket will make her cold because she only wears it when she's cold. Force her to wear it in June next year, that'll teach her. My son, who was 8 at the time and an only child, carved his very long name into the toilet seat, then claimed he didn't do it. Lol. When I learned to write my initials, I promptly carved them into the top of our TV. When my parents found it and asked me what about it, I told them I didn't do it, and they asked me who did. Maybe brother did it. Your 2-month-old brother? My toddler watched at least an hour of an animated movie populated entirely by talking animals. Suddenly a giraffe came on screen and said something. My kid stood up, pointed at the TV and angrily yelled, "What? Giraffes can't talk!" Kid logic. The kid probably learned that giraffes don't make noise. Ergo, a cartoon giraffe shouldn't talk. This made me wonder what noises giraffes make, since I've never heard one. Apparently they hum at night, which is a lot weirder than I expected. Hey mommy, wanna see a trick? Sure honey, show me a trick. Kid runs around in circles to build up momentum. Very deliberately crashes headfirst into the wall, then falls down and starts crying. Good trick, sweetie. So I don't actually remember doing this, can't imagine why, but my mom occasionally likes to tell the story that when I was little, apparently I had a big wheel. I used to ride around with it in the house and I would just ram it into a wall, laugh about it, turn 180, then straight across the room into the opposite wall, laugh and repeat. Strangely enough, somehow I ended up an engineer in my adulthood. When my brother was around 6, he decided to play Tarzan with the cord hanging in his room. However, the cord kept slipping from his hand, so he decided to swing with it around his neck instead. My poor grandmother walked into the room to find her grandchild apparently trying to hang himself. One night, my brother had a dream. He was being chased by a bear through the woods. No matter how fast he ran, the bear continued to gain on him. At last, he came to a cliff. He had 2 options: throw himself from the cliff onto the rocks below or be mauled by the bear. He chose the cliff. But wait, just as he was about to jump, he noticed a vine hanging in mid-air, just a few feet away from the cliff. He leapt for it, just barely escaping the jaws of the hungry grizzly. That was when he woke up. I should mention that my brother and I shared a bunk bed, and he had the top bunk. The cliff was the edge of his bed. The vine was the pull chain for our ceiling fan. He had about half of a second to realize what an idiot he was before crashing to the ground with the broken pull chain in hand. Our daughter, when asked what she wanted to be when she grows up, answered, "I want to be a strawberry. But if that's too hard, I want it to be purple." The color purple. The fruit strawberry. She was 5. I told my class when I was 4 that I wanted to be a parrot. It sounded cool to be a colorful bird, you know. Then some kid told me it was impossible, little jerk. I suppose your daughter has goals. My son has microwaved ramen noodles with no water a few times. Just so you know, they are flammable and smoke horribly and turn your microwave an awful yellow color. That's nothing. Some grown adult who alleges to be a good chef burned boxed mac and cheese 3 different times. If you burn the same thing the same way 3 times, that's totally on you for being a dum-dum. When I was a kid, my little brother woke up and thought he saw Frankenstein walking down our hallway in the middle of the night. He took off running in his underwear out the door, down the block, several blocks away. A couple picked him up maybe 4 blocks away and brought him home. He was on his way to my grandmother's trailer a good half-mile away. Kicker was, the Frankenstein he saw was my grandmother, who was staying with us that night. Took a while to live that one down. He gets extra points for having a decent plan anyway. My son, aged 10. I was trying to figure out why my shower was draining so slowly and wound up pulling the drain strainer out. Inside, I found a bunch of brown paper goop. It took me a while to figure out what it was. I went to my son and asked him, "Did you tear a toilet paper tube into little pieces and cram those pieces down the drain in the shower?" "Yes." "Okay, brain fries. How about not?" "Sure, that's better than what you would find clogging the drain when he's 3 years older. It mixes in with the hair and forms an impenetrable dam, like a beaver dam, but smaller and so much grosser." When a sudden rainstorm hit our campsite, my 11-year-old rescued a full water bucket from the rain and put it under the canopy to keep it dry. You can't let that water get hypothermia. When I caught him peeing in the doorway of his room at the age of 5, his reason? Because I don't want the kitty coming into my room. Smart. Gotta mark your territory. I was that kid. My parents took my siblings and I to a greenhouse garden. Everyone was on their best behavior until I got the sudden urge to lick some foamy stuff off of a window. I was always a good kid, never caused any trouble, but for whatever reason I had this compulsion to lick this foamy stuff off the window. Poison control had to be called. My parents were frantic. It was an ordeal. I was anaphylactic to milk at the time too, and I was definitely old enough to know better. What was the foamy stuff exactly? One time, my mom asked me what color my eyes were, so I started looking around trying to see them. A true visionary. My kid actually seems okay, but there's something I did. Young, about 9, and walking through Paddy's Market in Sydney about 1971, Dad says I can have $10, a decent amount at the time, to buy anything I want in the market for my birthday. So we're walking around, and I spot a giant crab. This thing is about a foot across. I decided that is what I want for my birthday. I want the crab. Son, we have nowhere to keep it. We can keep it in the bathtub. What if we want a bath? We can take showers instead. I did not get my crab and cried about it and refused to pick anything else too. 10 Aussie dollars in 1971 is worth $110.33 in 2019. When my sister was 18, she was planning a trip to California after HS graduation. She went several days calling banks to get the exchange rate for money because somehow she was absolutely convinced that regular US currency in Pennsylvania was not usable in California. She thought the banks were all lying to her that it was the same money. I'm surprised she even found California. My husband's grandma had to argue with a catalog salesperson that Alaska is part of the US. Person was adamant it was not. Grandma was born in the territory of Alaska, so were her first 2 kids. She was an adult when it became the 49th state. If I can be the kid who made my parents ask this question, I walked into a wall when I was 5 because I was walking around looking through binoculars backwards. Got these 2 massive ring bruises around my eyes. It seems a bit extreme that your parents gave you 2 black eyes for doing that. When the axe challenge was a thing, apparently you spray axe over the front of your shirt, light it on fire, then take the shirt off. I think that's it. Anyway, this genius gets his arm stuck on something as he pulled the shirt off inside out. So, of course, the fire is now burning his face. He gets it off with the help of his friends and gets taken to the hospital with 2-degree burns by his friend's mother because he was staying over. That was a fun call to get at 3 a.m. Dad, I'm okay, but I had an accident and Karen's taking me to the hospital to get treated. I told her it wasn't a big deal, but she made me call. My 14-year-old little brother went through an equally stupid phase of breathing fire. I came home to find him lying on his bed with a fan blowing on his face, 3rd-degree burns on his cheeks and no eyebrows. I filled the sink with ice cubes and water and told him to hold his breath and keep his face underwater for as long as he could until Mom came home to take him to the hospital. His dropkick mates had all pissed off when the flame flared up and ran home without helping him. He's bloody lucky that his skin healed so well. on Mother's Day, when I was a small child, my dad told me for Mother's Day he would give my mum a lion because she had a stressful week between jobs. Of course, tiny me had no concept of what a lion was and assumed my dad said a lion. Are we actually getting a lion? Yes, your mum really deserves a lie-in, so we'll give her one this morning. I then proceeded to sprint excitedly to my parents' room, climb onto the bed, jump up and down over my poor sleeping mother screaming, "Wake up, wake up, wake up, we're getting a lion, wake up right now." My mother did not get a lion, or a lie-in for that matter. When I was 8 or so, I just nodded and tried to act excited for a friend telling me he was getting a chocolate lab. I was desperately trying to envision what a miniature laboratory made of chocolate would look like, and why anyone would go through the trouble to make one, and why he'd be receiving one, and why exactly that was so awesome and exciting. I mean, just how large and intricate would this edible structure be? I was asking him questions, clearly looking unsure and confused, but trying my best to be interested in this awesome development for him. Then I found out it was a dog. He was a good dog,